we have a lot of questions. I don't know whether we can take up all of them, but I would like to begin with a few important things related to practice. The first question, I mean, you did address these things, but some more clarity is needed regarding whether Ayurvedic physicians can treat COVID-19 patients when they are approaching them. Because some states have not yet allowed this. So many states have not formally allowed, some states have allowed. So is it acceptable that if a patient comes to you for care, that you can actually offer treatment?
See, I already told you that there are actually, of course, the national advisory is there, and the state governments also. Different states will have different directives, and under the Disease and Disaster Management Act, they are effective. So, if a state says no, they cannot do it.
Okay. So we have to follow the state guidelines.
Yes, guideline. And the thing is, say they are in the periphery, they have not yet, become COVID positive or something like that. At that stage, they can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Once they are known to have COVID positivity, then you stop there.
Okay. So unless there is a
directive.
Yeah. The problem here is that the Ministry of AYUSH has issued some practice guidelines, but like for example in Kerala, we are still not allowed to handle COVID-19 patients. So in different states, it is different. So
Yes.
we have to follow the state guideline. So if we are treating COVID-19 patient, I mean, is there a necessity, because it's clinical practice, should we get a consent form?
Yes, that is a requirement because it is for your safety. Tomorrow the patient says, oh, you didn't tell me that this is effective or not effective. If the patient gains, no issues. The patient doesn't gain, he will sue you.
Okay.
So for your safeguard, you have to get the informed consent.
So and another related thing is like many patients are making videos of their experience with the treatment, sharing it to the physician. Sometimes physicians are sharing it. So here, as you mentioned, the privacy of the patient, I mean, it is breached. But sometimes the patients themselves say to share it. So this is a delicate situation. How should this be dealt?
If the patient says, if the patient shares it, it is his responsibility, his or her responsibility.
Yeah.
You are nowhere in that fray. Okay. But a doctor saying that you have to be careful because you have this act, magic remedies.
Yes.
You can't claim unless you have done proper research.
Right. Okay, so even if we have treated, I think without a proper research outcome analysis, we shouldn't be making any claim.
Yes. The therapeutic privilege is there, okay, in treating as you may wish to. But if you have to actually claim that, that becomes research. So, did you submit your idea to research committee for approval? Research committee first, and then ethics committee for approval. You didn't do that. So, how can you claim now?
Right. Okay. So another question is like when in Ayurveda we do have some guidelines issued by the ministry and all that, but Ayurvedic treatment is sometimes customized. So in places where Ayurvedic physicians are allowed to treat these patients? Should they, follow these guidelines only, or they can follow their own, the Ayurvedic approach? Because sometimes patients may need additional care which may not have been covered by the guideline.
You mean the guidelines, the Ayurveda guidelines? Or?
Yes, Ayurveda guidelines. I mean, of course, uh, we are not talking about the modern medical things. When an Ayurvedic physician is involved,
Yes. The thing is, you see, you follow the directives. Okay. What the Ministry of AYUSH has said. Over and above that, you are free to do that.
Okay. So where customization is needed,
therapeutic privilege.
Okay. So that can be done.
But you have to have ample ground, rationale to give that.
Okay. So the other thing, there were questions like how can herbomineral formulations be used? Those which we are widely using in clinical practice already. In the case of COVID, can it be used?
This is where it's a tricky question, because as I told you, you have to go by the regulations or the directives.
Okay.
If the government has said that you follow X, Y, and Z, then you cannot use A. But one thing is there, as I told you, therapeutic privilege, fine, you may be able to do that. But you cannot make any claim that this was useful.
So
Or
another,
you submit that as a research project.
okay. So another question was like many of these patients, you already mentioned that also this teleconsultation, and for many reasons, sometimes we have found also reports of Ayurvedic physicians consulting over phone or on these mobile platforms and then treating the patient. Are there any ethical issues involved there, or is it?
That is what I said. No, so the directive, especially if you take Kerala as an example, once you know that the person is COVID positive, they have to be referred to health or medical institutions. That is the word used.
Yeah.
And that, so the point is that whenever the government directives are there, you have to follow that. Okay. In the telemedicine or telecommunication, you have to abide by that. Once you know that the person is COVID positive, you have to refer the person.
Okay. So another situation has happened that many clinicians have reported this. Patients have called from hospitals, like in Mumbai, and I heard that even allopathic doctors are sometimes referring patients to Ayurvedic clinicians, and they are giving medicines inside allopathic hospital, kind of an integrative thing. But I don't know whether this is correct.
Yes. That depends on the Maharashtra state directive.
Yes, especially in Mumbai, it is happening.
Yes, and the thing is, not aware of. They are doing. Maharashtra government has given even the drugs that are to be given. Every state has a right to say that these are the drugs to be given. Suppose the state says no HCQ anymore, then you can't use HCQ.
Right. So like what about giving Ayurvedic medicines while they are under allopathic care? Like there was one case which I saw, the patient said she doesn't want to take Fabiflu. The patient opts for Ayurvedic treatment, and allopathic doctors are not objecting to that. And this kind of situations are happening.
Yes, that situation is very common. And in fact, the corresponding states, the states where this is happening, they have to take a decision on that.
Okay.
then it will become legal.
Right. So there were, you had addressed these issues, but this is about consent form, like written versus oral, electronic versus, hard copy. Can you, in terms of clinical practice, I mean, what should be the norm? Because sometimes the patient is very sick that a care, and you did clarify that even a police officer can, give consent in those circumstances. Is that applicable to clinical practice also? Can a scanned copy be sent by email or, electronic?
In clinical practice, in the COVID circumstances, it is a must.
Okay. You mean written or?
Written, whatever, documented.
Okay, so even an electronic is okay.
Yes.
Yes, or even a video recording if the patient is.
Yes. It is documentation.
Okay. So telephonic consent, but even if it's, as you mentioned, I guess we have to document it. It should be
if it is telephonic, how are you going to document? So you have to have a logbook.
Okay.
Logbook where you will say, you will put the time, and you spoke to such and such person, and when the talk ended.
Okay.
Signature. Date.
Right. So just a few more questions are there. One is about so many mobile applications coming related to COVID-19. Arogya Sedu, Ayush Sanjeevani. Orissa has introduced another app which records the audio of cough and recognizes corona. So are all of these really based on correct principles, and how do we judge that they are ethically correct in distributing information?
The thing is, privacy is the issue here.
Okay.
So if they are able to actually protect that, it's fine.
Right.
For example, if you take Arogya Setu, there's a thing like any COVID positive patient within 500 kilometer, 1 kilometer, 1000 kilometer and all that. So the thing is, they will only say one person. They will not give the name.
Okay.
One person or two persons. So be careful that way,
Okay. Now, another question is CDSCO registration mandatory for ASU drugs? I mean,
no.
Not mandatory.
No.
Okay.
It is DHR. DHR is mandatory only for ethics committee registration.
Another question is any guidelines for case reporting of patients who are treated by Ayurvedic physicians? Anything to be taken care of? Of course, consent form has to be there. Otherwise, any issues to be considered when reporting, case experiences?
No. Only thing I told you, this is something which has to be tackled by the policymakers.
Okay.
The thing, like you are doing this treatment and then you are publishing it, means you are open now to criticism.
Right.
How could you do that when your state had given such a directive? That's what you have to be careful.
Okay. So
Tamil Nadu will say something else, because Tamil Nadu has also given permission for use of kabasir, kudineer and all those things,
Okay, so it's always safe to make sure that you have followed state directives.
Yes.
Because otherwise, by writing a case report, you might expose that you have violated a law also. I mean, that's what I think people are a bit. So the case report should also be reflecting that you have complied with the law. Am I right?
Right.
Okay. So just a few more questions. Are there any, points that we should be specifically including in the consent form, especially related to COVID-19?
If it is practice, I had shown one slide.
Yeah.
Where the patient has to say that they declare voluntariness to enroll, because that is your safety, not the person's safety.
Right.
Okay. Legally.
Yeah.
Okay. The second thing is, whatever you are going to give may prove beneficial. You have to use the word may.
Okay.
Okay, may prove beneficial, and it is for risk is not expected. That is a word you have to use.
Okay.
There is no risk. You can't say that. Risk is not expected. When you talk about benefit, it may benefit you. And information about other alternatives.
Okay.
Whether it is in Ayurveda or it is in modern medicine.
Okay.
Because the patient should not say that I was never told about, otherwise I would have taken that.
Right.
These are the most important aspects. You don't have to write that informed consent in detail as you do for research.
Okay. So I think the last part is more related to research. Like to do Ayurvedic research, I mean, the Ministry of AYUSH has also come out with some directives that we can do such studies. Now, because Ayurveda, most of these medicines, it's like repurposing. They're already being used in clinical practice. If we are to study them for COVID-19, I mean, do we have to again go through this long drawn process of preclinical research, and especially when, in this pandemic situation, we need to do something quickly. If there are already medicines used in classically, can we directly go to human studies?
You are talking about Ayurveda, no?
Ayurveda. These are all related to Ayurveda.
Yes. See, the point is, it's already, actually India was one of the leading argument in argument arguing that
Yes.
if formulation has been described in the classical text for a particular indication. Now, as you know that no Ebola or no HIV was described, but you have similar features. Based on those, you have to have the rationale. Based on those features, these are the formulations that are used.
Okay.
In that case, you have to go straight into human trials.
Okay, so we have to give a supporting rationale of why we have chosen that.
Yes.
And with that, we can go directly to human. So another aspect is some people have said that they have found some of their proposals got rejected, especially when they used ARKA Kalpana, which is like a distilled, essence, which is a classically used thing. And many ethical committees actually did not give approval. So how do we deal with this? What are the requirements? Because it is still a classical method of preparation. But
the thing is, see, depends on which ethics committee did that. Was it an Ayurveda institution ethics committee? In that case, you should not have had any problem. Okay. But if it was in a modern medicine institution, then they need convincing. Okay. For that, you need to have experts co-opted from that particular system to give their opinion. Because these people are not well versed with these things. Okay. So somebody who is well versed with that should give. Unfortunately, I have also seen instance where actually the the expert who was chosen gave one opinion. Then they sent to another expert also who gave a different opinion.
Right.
What do you do then?
Yeah.
Because one said it is there in the classical text.
Right.
The other one said it is not there. So your choice of experts is also important. Choose only those people who are knowledgeable.
So there's just one interesting question, like what are the situations in which an Ayurvedic physician who's handling a COVID-19 patient could get penalized? Like, allopathic doctors have a certain protection here if they follow the standard of care. And so in the case of Ayurvedic physicians, how can we look at this situation? I mean, what would be the kind of protection? Of course, you already mentioned we should follow state guidelines. We should use medicines which are, backed up by proper rationale. But how do we look at it for an Ayurvedic physician? This protection in case of
have to approach the policy makers.
Okay.
And it will be best to actually go through the government mechanism.
Okay.
AYUSH government mechanism.
Okay, so AYUSH will have to take a call on this matter.
Yeah.
So the last thing is regarding claims. Like Ayurvedic physicians, can they set up immunity clinics, which is not saying, I mean, what can be offered? Because a lot of time people need to know what Ayurveda can offer. So what is the boundary here? Can we say this is generally to improve your health? Is it unethical to relate it with COVID? And can any public announcement be made that we are offering this treatment?
No, it will go under Magic Remedies
Act.
Hmm.
Okay.
Drugs and Magic Remedies Act. Objectionable advertisement.
Okay, so we should not connect it in any way with COVID-19 unless it's properly studied and well established. But if the government agrees Ayurvedic physicians can treat COVID-19 patients, then we could say that we are offering care. I mean, is that correct? Or I mean, not making any claims?
Yes, possible. Government has to actually give the permission.
If the government gives the go ahead, then we can offer care, but not make any claims of cure or without. Okay. So I think some people are asking if there is a guideline for this consent form. So maybe we have prepared something. We could send it to you. If you could give some suggestions, then it's something which could be then distributed amongst Ayurvedic physicians, which they could follow.
Yeah, consent form for practice?
Yes, for practice.
Okay.
So that's something which people have requested for.
Right.
Okay, madam, thank you so much for this wonderful session and for clarifying all these questions. I mean, this could go on longer, but I think we have come to the end of our time and we took 15 extra minutes. Thank you so much. Dr. Tripathi is our Vice Principal. I request him to conclude this session.
Om Amrita Nama. So on behalf of Amrita School of Ayurveda, first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Ram Manohar because he has arranged such a wonderful session. And at this outset, I would like to thank Dr. Nandini Kumar. Madam, you have explained all these ethical issues very vividly, and it was a very wonderful session and it was very informative. So, and most of the questions were also explained in a with very clarity. So we are very much grateful to you. So thank you, madam. So keep the same type of same type of cooperation with Amrita School of Ayurveda. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
for the chance given to me. And I think I enjoyed the question and answer session much more.
That yeah, we try to make it very brief. There are so many questions and we made it kind of generic so that we can address them in a broad way.
You can actually forward further queries if any.
Sure.
I'm always willing to answer that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again. And now namaste to everybody. We will be just logging off in a few minutes.